So you want tips for your ICD-10 book. All right. First things first is be sure you know that there are 4 indexes up here in the front of your book, not just the alphabetical index. Be sure you know there is one for that is alphabetical. You've got your cancer, neoplasm ones, and then you also have your drugs and chemicals, and then your last one is the external causes, and this is all in the very, very front of your book if you have a book like mine, before you even get to the ICD-10 codes. So super helpful. The first thing that I do as soon as I get a brand new book is I'll go to the index of external causes. And since the guideline is so complicated and you need to know it in particular order of how you code things and you need to know the sequence, I go on and put that up at the top of mine, and then I highlight every code so that I know where it would fall into place. Like an accident by an aircraft would end up being my second code of the day for that particular situation if I had all 4 different codes. Anything that's an activity like badminton or bowling would end up being the 4th thing that I would code in an external cause sequence. So that is super, super helpful to do. I also add that information on chapter 20 and on chapter 19's header in the front or in the back of the book on that particular chapter. So if I go here to chapter 19 and chapter 20, we will have that same information written on the very front or top of those chapters where the codes are actually located. It is super handy dandy to write it in both those locations. Don't forget about chapter 19 also. Super helpful to do. One more quick thing about some of the guidelines is one of our very first guidelines in the front of the book talks about the acute and chronic diagnosis codes right here. And it's a nice little sentence that talks about if there are separate sub-entries that exist in the alphabetical index at the same indentation, then you can code them both. You code them both on the, and you code acute first and then chronic second. Well, that really does you no good if you've got it up here in the guidelines if you don't have it back here. So where that comes into play is the very first sentence up here in your ICD-10 book. It says the vertical yellow line appears at the 2nd and 4th indentation level throughout the index. That sentence is there because of those 2 sentences I just read. So if a particular diagnosis has an acute and a chronic and they're not both indented in the same spot, then you cannot code them on the same day. So let's go to an example. Oh, look, even write those across there. I'm at the word injury in the alphabetical index. The more times you write it, the more you will remember it too. Anyway, as I keep going through my alphabetical index, let's go to one that I know is in here. For this example, let's go to thyroiditis. You see how acute and chronic are on the same yellow indentation line? That means this particular diagnosis can be coded acute and chronically on the same day for the same patient, and acute will go first and then chronic will go second. If your diagnosis does not have this, then you can't bill it. Like if acute is here and then chronic is right here at this indentation line with the transient, you couldn't use it. So super helpful to understand those guidelines, find you examples inside the indexes and in the tabular list. It is super helpful to move those guidelines and annotate them throughout the book. If we go to thyroiditis EO 6.9 in the back of the book, back here, you'll find that I moved that guideline to that area also. So super helpful. I hope this gives you some ideas on what to do for your ICD-10 book. I hope this is helpful. Don't forget to join in on my free live lessons. I like to teach for free 4 nights a week on TikTok and on YouTube. I hope to see you there.